Got one big ass video of nothing but wakes, washouts, object illuminations, and all the above. I scoured through some of my older security camera DAV files that I've probably not went through yet, and started categorizing them, and this is the first folder of the wakes and washouts. The more eye candy, in my opinion, but you're going to start to see a similarity in all the videos. For one, the modest type ion bleed off that comes off of them, and then the washout effect, which is basically the stirred up atmosphere. The bow wakes, like that one right there, with the little trails going to it. And the ion bleed off trails like this just continually form with the object all the way at the front. Dark trails, swirling motion of the sky. See right there, down there, how it just continues to form under the object, or under the object's turbulence. So it kind of bobs up and down in the lower atmosphere. Now, I don't think these objects are normal asteroids as we know them. They do seem to be physical, definitely physical, but they don't follow the same rules that regular asteroids do, or at least from what they taught us. These are coming from the binary system, and they are completely unique. The tumbling wakes right there, going down to the larger one at the base. The washout, the large washout from a passing lead object. The shadow, object shadowing right there, two of those objects. See that coloration, that blue, and then the orangish around it, right there in the center. That was an illuminated object right there. Back behind it, same thing with right there, that's its trail. The blue is its washout. Blue is basically its trail. The ion bleed off that's fallen off of it. It's a sky coloration, the horizontal ripple wakes basically form under those passing objects. And that distortion is typical of when these things are. There's the modest type washout that I always talk about. The bigger ones kind of cause that. So everything kind of bleeding down. You see these little trails that kind of go straight down. That's the eye off. Here, there's actually something. I think it's like a dust cloud or something back in there. Illuminated one down at the horizon. And there's another kind of one. You'll see these dark trails coming off of them. There's a bow wake, one right there that just shot through. You right there, see that distortion? And everything's going up. That's a cloud of that dusty, statically charged dusty debris. I'll cut that out. Huge wake washout, passing objects. They always seem to pass kind of lower at the base, and the washout kind of swings up and kind of turns around like that, and see the little ripple wakes. There's a group down in here, like right there. It's basically coming in. Here's their trail. They're coming in like this, and kind of turning off. So we're going to turn in. There's its washout, kind of like a breaking wave. Just follows that group. You have a little gap. You have the next group. See, this is the ion bleed off right here, going to this little object that's in there. You got the little gap that it cuts in the sky, or yeah, it cuts through the clouds. This is trail. Another one of these wake washouts. It's like a breaking wave. I mean, just like a breaking wave. The wake washout down there at the bottom. Right there, that was that little. That little stinger tail. I might throw that in later on. More of that kind of wake washout effect. Bleeding off, getting tumbled around. Kind of looks like fog getting rolled. Wakes and washouts. Wakes and washouts. That's what we got in this video. Some more obvious ones, as usual. And some good eye candy too. Most of these are different days, but you'll notice a lot of similarities. Particularly the modest, like wakes or ion bleed off that accompanies them, or something like this, the rolling wakes, which are my favorite. They're kind of rare but awesome to watch, and especially these ones, which is just like something rolling over the top of a lower level. Two different densities maybe. It actually looks like we're getting close to something like that here pretty soon, the way all the rain and overcastness is. I think that was 4K. Just a bunch of different camera perspectives of the same thing. This is something different, but that silky kind of cloud level with the rolling kind of wave-like motion to it. Now I wish I could tell you how high up the objects are that are causing this, how far down it ripples through our atmosphere. I just don't know. All I know is what I see from my little perspective down here on the ground, but I can definitely tell that there's some kind of bigger influence going on, because you'll have a perfectly normal, clear day, and then all of a sudden, something like this just rolls in and blows past, and then right back to normal. It's like normal weather's just doesn't really do that. It kind of builds up, but this stuff it comes and goes with the passing objects. And when you see everything kind of bowing to a point, leaving the comet-like trails behind it, the illuminations, at that single point at the base, you know that it's something. Whether it's a cloaked ship or asteroids or something more nefarious, I don't know yet. Yet being the key word. We'll get there. You guys keep an open mind. That is the object's ion bleed off trail, so it's way up front, and that's its tail basically stretching out past me, and it's just kind of, you get the bleed off that comes off of it, the rolling weight, motion as it passes through our atmosphere. but you'll have these tails of these things that will literally stretch out for miles, and you'll see the tail before you even ever see the object. You know, you may not even see the object. It may be way off in the distance, and its tail just stretches out to you, and then it lifts back up, and then the tail disappears, and you never get to see it. I've seen that many a times. I definitely think my area is kind of like an entry point, like a ramp down into our atmosphere from above, maybe riding the magnetic filament line. Because some days, when there's a lot of action, I can literally see those invisible, counter-rotating, DNA-structured filament lines. They basically get filled in with cloud, and you can see them. They're hollow, or at least they look hollow. They're full of energy, I'm sure. But they basically bend around my location. One of them drops in right above my location, and it kind of bends around my house and then goes off kind of north. Ooh, we got some thunder. Thunder and lightning storms in December. Gotta love this wacky weather. My dogs hate the thunder. They were cowering at the foot of my bed all night. We got a whole week of it, which is gonna be a pretty boring, crappy, nasty week. I think all this little dark stuff's kind of like the bottom offshoot of the big wake washout above. Because when you throw a tennis ball into the pool, you're gonna have the initial, surge, and then the washout that follows behind it. But you're also gonna have these little kind of vortex things that shoot off of it in little random directions from the turbulence. And that's kind of what those little black clouds are that form and then disappear. It's just kind of the random offshoots. And you can see how everything's kind of pushing off to the left. It definitely has the motion of a wake from something. I suppose it's just cloud weather. And something like this, you have to picture in your head, it's on a much larger scale than what you can comprehend from your little spot on the ground. You may be looking at, just a little section of one of its wakes, and then its ion bleed off, basically bleeding down in the atmosphere. They had to invent a new word for that kind of cloud right there when these things started showing up. The Mamadas clouds, ice crystals, and all that other swamp gas crap. El Nino, derecho. They just come up with new terminology. And that kind of standing wake right there, you saw the little object up front. Maybe you didn't, but I did. That is caused by an object in the atmosphere. And this was actually the wake washout from the cube. You see how that red is just bleeding off of whatever's above. That blue is basically the illuminated cube. That was a pretty awesome day. Right at sunset. But you see everything's just kind of like pouring down from above. And then this is, just one of my go-to examples of a wake washout. You can see it, the nasty swirly washout kind of stretching out. It's just like you would imagine something in water, but it's just a thin version of it in our atmosphere. Just stuff dunking into the atmosphere, pushing across. I mean, look at that. It's just like if you're sitting, under the water at a beach watching the waves wash up on shore or break onto shore. They would look the exact same thing, except for it'd be a lot more clear and blue, but the same thing a lot faster. There's another giant passing lead object. It's a modest bleed off. They always train roll by, and then as soon as they pass, the sky gets cleared. Sounds to me more like a passing object than it does just some random weather occurrence, but hey, I'm not an expert. That right there, you can even see the damn object at the front of the trail. It's breaking the clouds, bleeding off below it. It's that bleed off, that continuous bleed off from above is the good telltale sign. One wave, two wave. Wish I could find all my files better. I have some really good examples of this hidden away somewhere in one of my hard drives. I'll find them one day. I'm always trying. I always scour through, looking at them pretty much every day, trying to find the new stuff, the old stuff that I missed. It's just, I got so much, it's really hard. But when I stumble on them, I make them into a video. Right there, sorry. Right there, top right, you can actually see one of those objects. You see these big towering clouds
right there.
And there's something passing above. It's causing those
one.
big towering clouds to basically pull up to them as they pass. Always kind of go down to a small point, but that's just because of perspective, the distance. Same thing with this one right at the very front that just popped up. That was one of those objects. Everything is bleeding off of these spheres, whatever you want to call them.
And the flow.
I wish I had a better name for them, but
dropping in and just
I
swooping
don't.
by.
So just call them sphere object. And again, right where I'm pointing, it actually dropped down and then dropped back up. You can see it's a dark trail right there.
That's just passing.
They always have that dark kind of stringy looking trail that comes off of them.
They just kind of form in one spot
top,
and then just dissipate.
So basically swooping by, and all that crap
drop in basically, and
its effect
get repelled back up,
passes through the atmosphere.
That's why everything's in a low arc, and then it arcs upwards.
Just creates this huge silky
and again being repelled back out.
Freaking awesome looking cloud. See it just pop through, just barely. It's right there above the surface. You can see its trail coming off of it.
Dark trail in the center of it.
They're not always as spectacular as that was, but.
And then the wide V perspective of one of these instances where they're basically dropping in, and you actually have two groups. You got one that's swooping from right to left up top, and then you got one that's down low at the horizon that's going from left to right, and you'll see those just slowly pushing. You see them right there, and they're starting to poke through. They're just slowly pushing across the bottom in an arcing motion. See them right there, a nice little trail of disturbance, just like a duck in the water. Illumination at the bottom. Nice little trail up top going across to the left. And coming up, we got one of my favorite modest cloud.
Some other examples. There's one coming from the
big lead object
the right to the left.
Center.
You'll see it.
Man, I hope
its edge, basically, of its kind of like cloud envelope. It's right there in the center. It's a lot smaller than that, but that's its area of influence. I guess you could call it.
Colorful one too.
That's the lip of it, with the wake washout above,
that was pretty
which they call them modest clouds.
In person, I actually had, I think my
That's
dad and one of my good friends was over
wake
here
washout,
watching it with me. It looked like fire in the sky, like flames, just soft flames
in our very thin
down.
water atmosphere.
Fire on a roof.
As it's
Pretty
likes to act.
mesmerizing.
Another example, different time. They always kind of come in and arc
you know, and then stretch out, and you always have the little ripples that go to a little
more examples.
either dark void like that or a illuminated spot. More of these, you get those, the ripple wakes that are coming off of them, which is
Lead
how you
objects basically passing over
it's
me.
fixing to pass overhead.
I'm not exactly sure if this was the big three or not, but
You'll be able to see it.
definitely
It'll be
three
illuminated this time because it's passing into
orangish illuminated
light,
objects
basically,
pass over.
up
And
there
there's
in the
the
top
first
right,
one right
that
there.
spherical
You'll see
bulge.
it's kind of it's a
There's going to be
bulge.
3 of them. You see it right there?
Kind of see it cut through the
That's
clouds
the first
at the very
one,
front. That
pushing
was
up
the
the
lead.
bow wake.
And there's going to be
And
one
it's got the
behind it.
next one trailing behind it,
And then the very
illuminated
last one
also.
is going to be
Because the
glowing,
sun's setting and they're
illuminated
passing,
because
you
of
know,
the sunset.
behind me, so I'm able to see their illuminated sides, which is why they're illuminated right here.
There's, they call it the big three.
Typically, when they're coming from
They
the
are
sun,
kind
you
of
only see their
orange.
dark side, so they're pretty much
And they do
invisible.
travel together, and they typically have those big towering clouds that go with them.
That's the second one down there at
There's
the
that
bottom,
second one.
illuminated orange.
See the top
And then
of
the
it right
final
there.
one is the one that really gets lit up as the sun's fixing to
the
set.
third one. And
It's
this
like
is
right in that
facing away
transition
from the
period.
sun
Something happens with
at sunset.
the sunlight. It becomes a different
Nice
different
little
frequency
split
band, and
trail.
it just lights everything up.
Little illumination at the very front.
And that is opposite of the sun. So that's towards sunrise,
I was actually
and
photographing
that
that
is
one.
at sunset.
Anything good like that, I'll be
You
outside.
can see a
with
clear
my
trail coming
Nikon.
off of it, right in the middle of that
My
blue
cell
where it's
phone's
split.
taking panoramas.
Another example, you can see it at the very front.
So you got
that
a trail
arc
moving backwards, and then a part that's
pushing
pushing
down,
forward.
like that. Another example of the wake washout. One of the big ones passing by. And it's like a splash.
Washout,
That's how I
for
imagine it. Just a glunk, and then you get the
Just
washout behind it, just like throwing a ball into the water. And
And these ones,
this one
guessing
up
these
above
ones
the clouds, it's
are
ion
somewhat
bleed off
similar
coming
to an
down
ion
with our
bleed off
atmosphere.
effect.
It's got that
It has a
kind of spiral
kind of
DNA helix structure to it.
like a vortex motion to it. I mean, as you can see. It's pretty rare. I've only seen that a couple of times.
I've actually caught that on 3 different occasions. 3 different years.
Definitely get a good variety of sky phenomenon where I'm at.
And you can definitely see when there's something up there. There'll be a colored area, just one single spherical spot, either a void or it'll have coloration,
Definitely
illumination
tell
to it.
there's something,
All the clouds around it will basically be compressed by it.
especially where that dark
See
shadow
that,
is.
that void, no matter how bright I brighten my computer or my camera, those voids will always
I
stay
don't know if
dark.
That's the shadow of something
when there's
that's
something
up
up
above. It's causing that effect, or if
Most of the time you can brighten it up and kind of
magnetic connection
penetrate
that's
through,
stretching
but
down.
not when one of those things are up there and you're looking at its dark side. So everything kind of
Quite
droops
sure.
down to it. It's creasing
see
up
everything kind of
you know,
stretches
like it's got mass.
right to it, as if an object is passing overhead.
Everything just drags behind it. Another example
view.
of that DNA helix like bleed off. Everything kind of dragging,
Almost like
dragging right
something's
behind it.
ghosted at the bottom of it, but it's hard to see these things because of the distortion.
Now the next one.
Everything's kind of obscured through the cloud layer, and they also have an electrical.
Now
effect.
this is old. This is on one of my original
This was old,
crappy
but-
720
and crappy
cameras.
quality.
But the
Apologize for
video
that.
is
But it was,
pretty awesome. This is
One of these
captured this a
red
few times.
like objects.
It happens usually when the overcast sky is like this. Everything gets all starts going
Next thing
swirly,
going
and then
crazy,
everything just
lighting up.
lights up.
You're gonna have this
And what you got is this.
red,
This is towards
bright glowing
sunrise
object. It's gonna trek across
in the
the
afternoon.
horizon.
So this is not the sun.
Clear as
You see
day,
the,
pushing
this
across.
object glowing red,
Look at that.
pushing through,
And that was
lighting up the
opposite
sky,
of
opposite of the sun.
the sun setting. Well, I don't even think the sun was setting.
That's
That
one of
was
those.
that was towards
I don't know, you
sunrise.
call it red Kachina if you want,
So
or
the sun wasn't even that
or
direction.
the red
It was just
asteroid,
some
or
kind
I mean,
of
you see how bright that
illuminated
is.
object.
It just everything goes wacky, and then it
Pushing
just
across the
starts
sky,
glowing
pushing
and starts
across the
pushing through.
horizon. And 2019 was definitely an awesome year for this kind of
slow
stuff.
mo. Everything's just getting sucked to it, glowing red.
This is a slower,
Like it's some kind of red
slower
comet-like
version of it.
object. You see its silhouette right there,
Everything's
pretty
lighting
damn
up red,
clear.
so it's
Everything's
like
glowing red.
Reddish
And
colored.
it's just slowly pushing through the
A highly electrical object.
not swamp gas.
I'm thinking it's this object. And one's
Number
like it.
3:20
when
in the
everything goes
afternoon.
overcast and gets
That is
steamy and all
facing
the orbs start coming
east.
out. Feeling it's
And
because of
green
that
asteroid,
object.
just an example of some other
Similar
ones.
to it.
Got the green asteroid coming in, left to right. Same one, different time,
Photos
different,
of it
different
from a lot
month.
farther away.
Same
Looks like
thing,
a red
green
comet
illumination.
moves across the horizon.
And you got this lead objects right here. Lead object in
Sometimes
front.
passes overhead.
Bigger spherical one in the back. Close pass.
It's got a bunch of photo
leads.
examples
And then the example of those red ones
for the skeptics.
Um,
And that was the
this is
red
the same object that
farther away.
showed in
I
that
think
previous
it's the
video,
same one.
just a lot farther away, back in 2019. Same thing, same things
But
at
when they come in,
nighttime,
they'll have the same kind of
different times of the year, same objects. And then right there you can see it, the two of them,
motion.
right there at the front, perfect sphere.
Spheres,
Little one in the
leads.
front, bigger one in the back.
as they always are.
Always.
Smaller one in the front,
Always
bigger
the two.
spherical one in the back.
Here's another example.
Just like
from
all those.
The last 3 years, different times, same two objects
Many,
traveling
many
together.
photos of those two.
Small, kind of elongated one in the front, bigger spherical one in the back.
That's it.
And that's what I call science.